December 11th, 1941. Adolf Hitler strode to the podium of the Reichstag and did something so monumentally stupid that even his own generals couldn't believe what they were hearing. He declared war on the United States of America. Not because he had to, not because America had attacked Germany, but because of a promise to an ally who hadn't even bothered to tell him about Pearl Harbor. Within months, the Führer would realize he'd just signed the death warrant for the Third Reich. This is the story of Hitler's biggest blunder and the exact moment he knew it. 4 days earlier, Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor without giving Hitler any warning. Zero consultation. The tripartite pact between Germany, Italy and Japan only required mutual defence if one member was attacked, not if one of them started a war. Hitler could have stayed quiet. He could have let America focus all its rage on Japan while he dealt with the Soviets. But he didn't. On that fateful December day, Hitler made a decision that military historians still struggle to explain rationally. He voluntarily brought the world's largest economy, the most productive industrial base on the planet, and a population of 132 million people into the war against him. The United States hadn't even figured out how to enter the European war without splitting public opinion down the middle. Hitler handed President Franklin Roosevelt exactly what he needed on a silver platter. Here's the thing. Hitler genuinely believed America was weak, soft, divided. He saw the United States as a mongrel nation, corrupted by what he called racial mixing, controlled by Jews, and incapable of producing real fighting men. He looked at America's tiny peacetime army and laughed. In 1939, the US Army ranked 17th in the world, smaller than Romania's. Hitler saw a country still traumatized by World War I, desperate to avoid another European bloodbath. He also believed his U-boats would strangle any American attempt to cross the Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic was going well. German submarines were sinking Allied ships faster than they could be replaced. In Hitler's mind, America was 3,000 miles away, separated by an ocean he controlled. What could they possibly do? But Hitler made a catastrophic miscalculation. He confused America's reluctance for war with an inability to wage it. He saw isolationism and thought he was looking at weakness. He didn't understand that America's industrial capacity was simply hibernating, waiting for a reason to wake up. He was about to give it one. The first crack appeared within months. American factories converted to war production at a speed that defied logic. Henry Ford's Willow Run plant started pumping out B-24 Liberator bombers at a rate of 1 per hour. 1 bomber every single hour. That single factory produced more planes than the entire Italian aircraft industry during the entire war. By mid-1942, American shipyards were launching a new Liberty ship every single day. Sometimes, even multiple ships in just one day. The United States built more ships in 1943 alone than Japan managed to build during the entire war. Hitler's intelligence officers kept bringing him numbers that honestly just seemed impossible. He insisted they had to be propaganda. Nobody could build that fast, right? But they weren't propaganda. They were real. America wasn't just outproducing Germany, it was outproducing Germany, Japan and Italy combined, all while simultaneously supplying Britain and the Soviet Union. The arsenal of democracy wasn't just a catchphrase. It was a genuine phenomenon, one that Hitler's worldview simply couldn't accommodate. By late 1942, Hitler couldn't ignore reality anymore. Operation Torch landed American troops in North Africa. These weren't the weak, undisciplined soldiers he'd expected. Sure, they were green, they made mistakes, but they learned fast, and they just kept coming. More importantly, they brought equipment in quantities that absolutely stunned German commanders. American units didn't run out of ammunition. They didn't have to ration fuel. They had so much stuff they could actually afford to be wasteful. German General Erwin Rommel, facing the Americans in Tunisia, reported back with barely concealed alarm. The material superiority was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. American artillery could fire missions that would bankrupt German ammunition supplies in just a few days. American soldiers carried more ammunition in their basic load than German soldiers could requisition in an entire week. Hitler started getting the reports from his generals. The Americans were building 60 aircraft carriers. 60. The Luftwaffe, once the terror of European skies, was being swept aside by sheer numbers of American pilots flying American planes. By 1943, the United States was producing more aircraft per month than Germany produced in an entire year. The math wasn't just bad, it was honestly apocalyptic. The moment of true realization probably came sometime in 1943. Hitler stopped mentioning America in his speeches with contempt. The mockery disappeared. He started making excuses. He blamed traitors, sabotage, Jewish conspiracies. Anything but admit he miscalculated so badly that he'd personally destroyed any chance Germany had of winning the war. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister, later wrote about conversations where Hitler would stare at production charts in silence. The gap between German and American output was so vast it broke something in Hitler's mind. Germany was producing 40,000 aircraft per year at peak capacity. America hit 96,000 in 1944. Germany built 46,000 tanks during the entire war. America built 88,000. These weren't battles. This was industrial annihilation. The strategic bombing campaign drove the point home with hammers. Waves of American B-17s and B-24s flying in daylight and escorted by fighters turned German cities into rubble. The Luftwaffe threw everything at them. It didn't matter. For every American bomber shot down, 2 more appeared. For every American pilot killed, 3 graduated flight school. Hitler's war with America didn't just add a new enemy, it made every enemy stronger. American Lend-Lease aid to the Soviet Union transformed the Eastern Front. American trucks, American trains, American food, American boots. The Red Army started moving with a logistical efficiency it had never possessed. Soviet offensives that should have stalled from supply problems kept rolling because American ships kept delivering supplies. Stalin knew exactly what was happening. He toasted the American automobile industry at Tehran, crediting American trucks with making Soviet victories possible. Hitler watched his war on 2 fronts become a war against an enemy that could supply everyone everywhere all at once. He'd added a 3rd ally to the Soviet-British coalition, except this ally had unlimited resources. By 1944, Hitler rarely spoke about America directly. And when he did, there was no more bravado. He made these vague references to secret weapons that would, change everything. He predicted splits in the Allied coalition. He really grasped at fantasies because reality had just become unbearable. The comfortable narrative where Germany's superior fighting men and superior ideology overcame material disadvantages, well, that had collapsed. In private conversations recorded by his associates, Hitler admitted that declaring war on America might have been premature. Premature. That was the word he used. Not wrong. Not catastrophic. Premature. As if Germany just needed a few more years to prepare for the inevitable conflict. The delusion, honestly, never fully broke. The German generals knew better. They'd done the math. They'd seen the intelligence reports. They understood that Germany lost the war the moment Hitler made that December declaration. Everything after was just determining how many people would die before the inevitable end. Hitler's declaration of war on America stands as one of history's most incomprehensible strategic blunders. It turned a war Germany might have survived into a war Germany couldn't possibly win. It united American public opinion overnight. It gave Roosevelt the political cover he desperately needed. And, it brought the world's industrial superpower into the war at full strength. The lesson isn't subtle. Ideology makes you stupid. Hitler's racist beliefs about American weakness blinded him to obvious reality. He saw what he wanted to see until it was too late to matter. By the time he understood his mistake, German cities were burning and Soviet tanks were rolling toward Berlin. The moment Hitler realized declaring war on America was a mistake, well, it happened gradually and painfully across hundreds of reports showing American production numbers that just seemed impossible. Each number was a nail in the Third Reich's coffin. Each ship launched, each plane built, each soldier trained. The realization must have been absolutely crushing. He'd destroyed his own regime because he simply couldn't imagine that a diverse democracy might actually be stronger than a so-called pure dictatorship. He was wrong, catastrophically, historically, and, definitively wrong. If you found this deep dive into one of World War II's most consequential decisions valuable, make sure you subscribe to The Last Pacific War Chronicles. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you never miss our detailed explorations of the Pacific Theatre and beyond. Share this with anyone who loves real history told without the boring textbook treatment. We're building a community of people who want to understand not just what happened, but why. So, join us.